Welcome everyone to Theories and Practice. I'm Jessica.
And I am Karina. Today Pat will be covering the fundamentals of enterprise architecture. So take it away, Pat.
We'll talk about what enterprise architecture is, define some terms, discuss how and what makes enterprise architecture work, and how the Program Management Office and enterprise architecture work together. Remember, this is a basic introduction. Since we all come from different companies, I will provide how you can understand enterprise architecture and the role it plays, or the role it could play. Also, enterprise architecture is about planning for technology change. Enterprise architecture must be governed so that technology changes are approved by senior leadership, as changes may negatively impact the business and various lines of business in the company. Governance puts controls in place. Technology change typically means that we must follow project management processes created by the Program Management Office. The Program Management Office is a critical partner with enterprise architecture. Okay, let's get started. Here's what you will walk away with at the end of this session. So our objectives are to understand the concept of enterprise architecture, grasp some of the terms that we use in enterprise architecture, as well as understand the deliverables that the enterprise architecture program provides, and finally, know how and where enterprise architecture fits in your company. Let's talk about how enterprise architecture can help you realize how the enterprise architecture positions a company to achieve its strategy from a technology perspective, as well as understand enterprise architecture's governance role, strategic planning, and the role the Program Management Office plays. So what is enterprise architecture? Well, Gartner defines enterprise architecture as a process that takes the business's vision, goals, and strategies and transforms or changes the business through a series of projects and programs to help it evolve. This is one of the many definitions of enterprise architecture. There are different focuses that exist in different industries, such as manufacturing, the financial industry, retail, the medical industry, insurance, and others. Basically, enterprise architecture is all about technology planning. In other words, enterprise architecture is a component of the overall strategic planning in a company. The company's strategic planning is done by the Chief Executive Officer, also known as the CEO, and his direct reports or her direct reports. This is where senior leadership directs change in the company. When you introduce change, you change employees' roles and responsibilities, processes such as data and information, existing or new applications, infrastructure, and possibly technology. As you know, a company is focused on making a profit. So when the company has to spend money on itself, it needs to understand that this spending of the money or investment is worth doing. So if as part of the strategic plan, the company invests in technology, it wants to be sure that it is making the right decision to purchase the right technology that will continue to build more profitability for the company. This is called return on investment. The strategic plan, which includes the enterprise architecture component, is meant to be executed to maximize profits, make more money, and reduce the company's operating costs. The execution takes place through projects and programs. This is where the Program Management Office works with the business and enterprise architecture to have the business's CEO prioritize the plans and programs so that the most important programs and plans have appropriate resources, and resources are defined as money, people, and technology to successfully complete the projects and programs. Return on investment is over time, based on a 1-year, 5-year, or 10-year point, setting expectations that should map into the business strategies. The reason a company should want to create and document an enterprise architecture is to maximize the return on the investment it makes in technology. Specifically, return on investment is the amount of money you make from an initial financial investment. Let's talk about some key terms used in the enterprise architecture area. Some of the terms are vision. What does the organization and company want to be as it ages? The vision comes from the Chief Executive Officer and her or his leadership team. Strategic planning is all about defining the direction of the company. A framework, you may hear enterprise architects talk about TOGAF, the Open Group Architecture Framework, or ZACMAN, or DODAF, the Department of Defense's Architecture Framework. It's all about the framework or conceptual structure that the enterprise architecture team will follow to ensure easy communication among team members, vendors, partners, and others who will help to create a useful enterprise architecture. Enterprise architecture governance is a process or practice consisting of designated participants with assigned roles and responsibilities that manages and controls the development, growth, and change of a product, a service, project or program, or deliverable. A deliverable is a measurable, tangible output that you can see, read, or touch. An example would be a blueprint for a redesigned storage environment, a business case to replace remote services, a roadmap that shows what, how, and when servers need to be upgraded. Life cycles are exactly what it sounds like, a process that occurs from cradle to grave, the stages that products, applications, and services go through before they are replaced, retired, or decommissioned. A sponsor is the person who manages, administers, monitors, funds, and is ultimately responsible for the overall effort, product, or project and program. Stakeholders are the individuals or groups that are actively involved in the development, change, and direction of the enterprise architecture program, or whose interests may be positively or negatively impacted as a result of the enterprise architecture execution. For example, the stakeholders would be responsible to read the business case, review the roadmap and the storage replacement, and provide input. Standardization is the process of applying rules to a body of work, product, or service. For example, a business process, application, a programming language, an operating system, how code will be documented. Taxonomy is the process or science of classifying, organizing, or structuring the framework. Again, taxonomies are important so that the team is communicating from the same perspective, context, or frame of reference. Let's say you draw a circle on a piece of paper, meaning it is the sun, but you don't tell the team. A team member believes your circle is the earth. Another believes it represents a baseball. Therefore, it is imperative to understand the taxonomy or perspective so that the team can communicate on the same topic. Let's assume that the CEO and senior leadership approve the initiation of an enterprise architecture. Policy, procedures, and governance are in place. Now the enterprise architecture leader works with the team to decide on the framework that will be used to document the enterprise architecture, its standards, guidelines, and principles. Earlier we discussed that there are a variety of frameworks from which to choose based on the industry and familiarity with a framework such as TOGAF, the Open Groups Architecture Framework, the DoD Architecture Framework, the Federal Architecture Framework, or ZACMAN. With the chosen framework, the enterprise architecture team gathers current environment information such as metric, current environment wire diagrams, and documentation to validate what exists and what technologies need to be retired, invested, or held due to the business need. Let me not get ahead of myself, and let me explain the enterprise architecture lifecycle next. The enterprise architecture lifecycle starts with the initiation phase. However, in reality, the enterprise architecture lifecycle exists today in every organization and does not end until the company closes. As stated in the previous slide, in the initiation phase, the CEO approves the enterprise architecture establishment. The enterprise architecture leader, with the executive leadership, sets up the governance process and the policy. Then the next phase, the planning phase, begins. The planning phase includes the enterprise architecture leader and the chief information officer documenting the mission, vision, and scope. The enterprise architecture leader leads to the creation of an overall program plan and communicates the plan to the governance committee. Also in this phase, the enterprise architecture team gathers documentation of the current environment and then documents a forward-looking strategy. After the future enterprise architecture is documented and approved by the governance committee, the enterprise architecture team begins building the target target architecture and the roadmap that leads the company from the current enterprise architecture to the future enterprise architecture state. At each stage or on a monthly basis, the Enterprise Architecture Governance Committee meets to agree and approve the plan, deliverables, ideas, and budget implications the enterprise architecture team develops. The plan is updated annually or as events occur, such as the introduction of newer technologies that come into play that cause further ideas with the business, and updates are required. Enterprise architecture cannot operate in isolation, even within itself, because dependencies exist with the business, projects, applications, and hardware, which must be discussed at all governance updates and change advisory board change meetings. In the next phase, the execution phase, the enterprise architecture leader and team collaborate with the business and the Information Technology Program Management Office and the Information Technology Organization to determine what changes need to be executed and the priority of these changes. These changes need to be synchronized with in-flight projects, the information technology operations, and future projects and changes. Introducing new technologies requires a business case and a return on investment that is presented to the governance committee. The execution phase is where the majority of time is spent once the planning phase is approved by the governance committee. The next phase in the enterprise architecture lifecycle is the monitoring and maintaining phase, where the enterprise architecture team continually reviews performance and other reports to understand where to focus efforts to overcome and architect out common incidents or problems. Architecting out incidents and problems must be in alignment with the future information technology environment. The enterprise architecture lifecycle is a continuous process that introduces changes to improve and update the information technology environment. These changes must be coordinated with the business and the information technology organization to ensure there are no negative impacts or surprises introduced into the information technology environment. The company needs to know that enterprise architecture exists and is working in concert with the business strategy and goals. Communication about enterprise architecture is critical for everyone in the company because each change could introduce a negative impact to the business, and the information technology organization wants the business to be successful and profitable using the technology the information technology organization supports. Here are some of the enterprise architecture deliverables. Under strategy, the CEO and senior leadership approve the enterprise architecture as a formal entity through policy and principles and make sure enterprise architecture aligns with the business strategy and goals. Enterprise architecture documents the governance process, attendees, roles, and responsibilities. The governance committee's responsibilities are to approve the technology direction, standards, and guidelines. This is documented and shared with the entire company to guarantee compliance across the company. Other deliverables include documenting architectures, providing a plan, and producing a roadmap which depicts the movement from the current information technology environment to the future information technology environment, enabling a more efficient and effective information technology environment that supports the business.
While the capabilities of the Program Management Office range in companies, enterprise architecture and the Program Management Office are the intersections of the governance process. So how can you implement enterprise architecture without a Program Management Office?
To implement enterprise architecture without a program management office, it will be extremely difficult because you have to have a program management office that provides the means of moving from the current to the future state using standard project management planning processes to use and improve over time. Architects cannot project manage, provide the technical direction, and be technical leader all at the same time.
That is so true, Pat. What are your thoughts on aligning enterprise architecture with ITIL?
The best way to align enterprise architecture with the ITIL, Information Technology Infrastructure Library, processes would be for the heads of both organizations of the ITIL processes and the enterprise architecture lead to meet and discuss how they will work together to support the work effort needed to successfully implement change into the information technology environment. Once there is communication and understanding, then the teams can meet to iron out any areas of uncertainty. We hope you enjoyed our brief introduction to enterprise architecture, and if you have any questions, please contact us at info@theoriesinpractice.biz. Also be sure to let us know how we can improve these sessions for you. Our next presentation will be about the ITIL, Information Technology Infrastructure Library processes.